Ernest Cadine and Charles Rigoulot were two French titans of 1920s weightlifting, and they weren't just the best in France. Cadine won gold at the 1920 Olympics in Antwerp, which was the first time weightlifting was a standalone event, making him the very first French Olympic weightlifting champion. Cadine competed as a light heavyweight, but he actually even smoked the heavyweight gold medalist, a guy called Filippo Bottino, who, despite weighing considerably more than Cadine, lifted a total of 30 kilos less than his light heavyweight counterpart. With his Olympic win secured, Cadine turned professional and continued setting records, considered by many to be the best weightlifter in the world. But another young star was rising during the early 1920s. Charles Rigoulot, barely 20 years old, was also setting world records as an amateur. A rivalry was clearly forming, but the two wouldn't meet face to face just yet. Rigoulot competed at the 1924 Olympics in Paris, where he too won a gold medal for France as a light heavyweight. And he also outlifted almost every heavyweight despite being around 20 to 25 kilos lighter. That's when Rigoulot also turned professional, and the stage was finally set. These two were clearly in a league of their own, but who was the best? An excited Parisian crowd would find out on October 6, 1925. This special one-on-one contest was held at the Cirque d'Hiver, or Winter Circus, a venue which usually was home to the likes of acrobats, daredevils, and exotic animals. On this day would host just two men, with a bunch of heavy-ass weights. We're fortunate enough to have some excellent images of this event, and you can just imagine the kind of energy that room had, with such a packed crowd intimately surrounding the small stage in the center. Rigoulot was just 21 years old at the time, and while no one doubted his natural talent, would it be enough to defeat the significantly more experienced Cadine, who by then was a 32-year-old veteran of the sport? They competed in 10 different lifts and mostly kept up with each other until it came to the clean and jerks. Cadine was considered to have an advantage in these lifts, but he was struggling to recover from all the earlier exercises. This is where Rigoulot really got to show off, with a 140.5 kilo clean and jerk on the dumbbells compared to Cadine's 115 kilos, and a 156 kilo barbell clean and jerk compared to Cadine's 137 kilos. Not ready to accept defeat just yet, Cadine gathered all his strength for the final movement, which was a deadlift. Here, Rigoulot pulled a respectable 249 kilos, while Cadine pulled a whopping 265.5 kilos, which was actually a new world record. Though sadly for him, it just wasn't enough to make up for his deficit in this showdown. So Rigoulot won the contest by a very narrow margin of only a couple kilos, but enough for him to now be considered the best weightlifter in the world. As a side note here, the sources say Cadine weighed in at 90.5 kilos body weight on the day, while Rigoulot was definitely bulking harder since the Olympics because he weighed in at 99.5 kilos. So there was a 9 kilo body weight difference between the two. Quite significant if you ask me. It does give the contest a bit of a different perspective when you look at it pound for pound. Anyway, Cadine was not too happy with the result, so he challenged Rigoulot to a rematch. And just 3 months later, on January 9th, 1926, the two legends would face off once again, drawing in probably the biggest crowd ever at the time for a standalone 1-versus-1 weightlifting event. Over 10,000 spectators gathered at the Vélodrome d'Hiver in Paris, which was a long indoor bicycle racing track and stadium, just a couple hundred meters from the Eiffel Tower. The format was pretty much the same as their first match. They each maxed out on 10 different lifts, and the one with the highest total would be the winner. Just like the first time around, they more or less kept up with each other during the first 6 lifts, but then it all started falling apart for Cadine. Rigoulot outlifted him by 21 kilos on the two-hand snatch, nearly 50 kilos on the separate dumbbell clean and jerk, and over 20 kilos on the barbell clean and jerk. jerk. Then finally it came to the deadlift. This is where Cadine pulled a world record last time to nearly make up his large deficit. But this time around, Cadine got quite the opposite of the redemption he was hoping for. He only managed to pull 242 kilos, while Rigoulot pulled a massive 271.5 kilos. Hey, it's me from the future. Sorry for breaking the immersion. I just want to really quickly jump in here and comment on how great these images are. Like really, it's some of the best stuff I've ever shared on this channel, and it's really all thanks to the French National Library. So I'll leave that linked below. It's an excellent resource. Go check it out. But like, just look at this. I mean, honestly, this image is like 100 years old, and you can just keep zooming and zooming and just look at all the details and immerse yourself into what was going on back then. So what I noticed on this particular photo of Rigoulot doing his deadlift during his rematch with Cadine, check out the bar. If you look real close, you can see there are actually dumbbells hanging off the bar. So I guess at some point when they run out of weight, they just load up the bar with, with some dumbbells. Very, very cool images in this video. Anyway, back to it. With this victory, Rigoulot's supremacy was undisputed, and the newspapers certainly didn't hesitate to declare him the strongest man in the world. After his defeat, Cadine took up a career in entertainment as a strongman, performing in music halls, while Rigoulot continued weightlifting for another 5 years, traveling around Europe and North Africa on a constant quest for challengers and records. In 1930, he made history by being the first person ever to verifiably lift Apollon's wheels overhead. This was a 166 kilo makeshift barbell, which was essentially just 2 train wheels connected by a thick, smooth axle, replicas of which are still used in modern strongman competitions. In May 1931, at a weightlifting event in Paris, Rigoulot set a world record with an 86 kilo left-hand snatch, and he beat his own world record in the barbell snatch, where he lifted 143 kilos. Not stopping there, he also wanted to set the clean and jerk world record at 185 kilos, something he had already lifted unofficially in training. But as he cleaned the weight off the floor in front of the judges, and just as he was about to throw the bar overhead, disaster struck. Rigoulot collapsed to the ground, suffering a catastrophic injury to his left leg, which put an end to his weightlifting career. From there, he threw himself straight into the world of wrestling, using his tremendous strength to take on some big names like Henry Steinborn, Dan Koloff, and even former world champion Henry DeGlane. It was here in the world of wrestling where Rigoulot would once again cross paths with his old rival, Ernest Cadine. Now, I haven't seen this event mentioned anywhere on the internet, so you guys are probably the first to hear of it. I just happened to stumble on this 1934 article as I was digging through some French newspaper archives while researching for this video. And yeah, I guess at some point during his entertainment career, Cadine must have also picked up wrestling, and the two had a third showdown, this time in the ring. Kinda reminds me of Eddie Hall fighting Hafthor Bjornsson. Turns out they weren't the first strongmen to try to beat the crap out of each other. To be fair though, back then wrestling and strength sports were much more closely linked, so it's not a massive surprise. Anyway, Cadine would have been 41 years old during the match, while Rigoulot was only 31. And continuing the common theme with these two, Rigoulot had a massive 15 kilo bodyweight advantage. The match lasted 13 minutes, with Rigoulot winning thanks to an arm lock. With Cadine's third defeat, this epic rivalry came to an end. In the rawest sense, Rigoulot was clearly superior, but I don't think it takes anything away from Cadine's legacy, because from a modern lens, it's pretty clear these guys should have been competing in different categories. Cadine always looked quite ripped, whereas Rigoulot only looked lean during his early Olympic days. After that, bro definitely got on the bulk and turned into a proper unit. From here, the trail pretty much goes cold for Cadine, but as for Rigoulot, man, this guy was quite something. After wrestling, he picked up car racing. He even won the 1937 Bol d'Or, which, kind of like Le Mans, was a 24-hour endurance race. Here he is kissing Mrs. Rigoulot after driving 2,137 kilometers. Oh, but wait, there's more. He also became a true showman. He was a singer, a theater actor, he even ended up in a couple movies. Bro even has an IMDb page and everything. It's crazy, he really did do it all. There's a famous anecdote from World War II which of course we must mention. He was taken as a prisoner of war by the Germans, and legend has it that he bent the bars of his cell with his hands, allowing him and his fellow prisoners to escape. Obviously, it's impossible to verify these things, but it's a cool story nonetheless, somewhat similar to Alexander Zass. Anyway, to wrap up the story, Charles Rigoulot died quite young at just 58 years old in 1962, though he did live to see his daughter, Danielle Rigoulot, become the 3-time champion of France in figure skating in 1958, 1959, and 1961. Ernest Cadine, on the other hand, was blessed with better health and died at the age of 84 in 1978. I hope you enjoyed this quick story about these two legendary French weightlifters. Both of them have made random appearances on this channel, but it was nice to finally give them the attention they deserve in a dedicated video. Please drop a like and a comment to support my work, and check out these two videos if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching!